Hello again, welcome to College Algebra. Today we're going to talk about the system of nonlinear equations. So the difference between what we have learned before and today the system of nonlinear equation is the systems of nonlinear equations is working with some other equations like quadratic equations, rational equations, radical equations. So we're going to learn how to use the two methods, the substitution and the addition methods in solving system of nonlinear equations. I'll try to give you an idea how to draft a graph of these equations so you can predict the solutions before we go and solve the equations. We're going to learn today that system through 3 examples, and I hope that this example would be helpful for you to understand this topic. Alright, so let's start with first problem, and I'm going to use in this problem the substitution. Okay, so here's my first question is I have a system of nonlinear equations. So I have x squared plus y squared equal 25, and I have x plus y equals 7. Alright, so let's look at these two together. So the first thing that we have to know that x squared plus y squared equals 25, that is very common to you, very familiar. So what is that? Yes, it's a circle equations that has the origin, it's from the origin, and the radius is 5. Alright, the second one is a linear equation. If you subtract if you subtract x, you get y equals negative x plus 7. That means that it's a linear equation with a slope -1 and y-intercept is 7. So if you think about that, that would be like that, 7 and negative. So look at this one. How many solutions? How many intersections between the line and the circle? 2. So either have 2, or either this line would be out of the circle here or there. So there is no other solution, either 2 or none. Does it make sense? So now you can predict how it goes before going to solve the problem. Alright, let's solve the problem. So you know the idea here. Alright, so the first step, I'm going to evaluate y here, and then by substitution, and then plug y, substitute y in the first equation. So from the second equation, x plus y equals 7. That means that y, I subtract x, so that would be, let's say y is 7 minus x. So now I got this one. Okay, I'm going to plug x 7 minus x here. So I have x squared plus something squared, which is y, equals 25. And instead of y, I plug 7 minus x. Okay, so far, x squared plus 7 minus x all squared equals 25, where 7 minus x is y. Okay? Now, I'm going to solve for x. One variable, one equation. Right. So, what kind of equation is that? This is a quadratic equation. So, factoring, complete the square, quadratic formula, all of these stuff come to my mind when solving this kind of equation. Okay, so let's start. X squared, I will extend this one. So I have 49 and negative 7x squared. So that would be minus 14x, and then x squared, I have x squared here. Okay, equals 25. Alright, so I will combine the like terms. I have x squared, So I have 2x squared minus 14x. And now I have 49 and 25. Let's move the 25 to the other side, to the left side. So I subtract 25. So 49 minus 25 is positive 24. And here's 0. Okay? Alright. Can we simplify this equation before factoring it? Yes. I can divide by 2, everything by 2. So I have x squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. So again, I will say what I did so far. So I have two equations. Okay, I use the second equation to substitute the value of y in the first equation. So I got y equals 7 minus x. I plugged 7 minus x instead of y and cleaned the equation, and I got this quadratic equation. Now I'm going to factor and get the value of x. Alright, so let's see. I have x and x. I need two numbers. Their product is 12 and their sum is negative 7. So basically negative 3 and negative 4. Alright, so I got two values. I got x is 3 and x is 4. Okay, now if x is 3, what is the value of y? I have x plus y equals 7. Or here is y, 7 minus x. So y equals 7 minus 3, then y equals 4. So the first solution is 3 and 4. Okay, so if x equal 4, then y equal 7 minus 4, 7 minus 4, then y equal 3. And then my solution would be x is 4 and y is 3. Okay, so how many solutions do I have? Two solutions. And remember that would be like that. So I have two solutions. So now the solution is 3 and 4 and 4 and 3. So I have 2 points where the line intersects the circle. And this is logical. So the line is not out of the circle either here or there. It intersects the circle in these 2 points. I hope that this is clear. Let's get another example. Alright, I'm going to use a substitution also in this example. Alright, I have my system of equation here is x minus 5y is 10 equals 10, and y equals the square root of x minus 4. Alright, now by substitution I have the value of y here is ready. So the idea when I think about it, okay, plug instead of y, square root of x minus 4 in the first equation, and solve for x. I'm going to do that. But here's something I have to think about it. This is not a straightforward x. This is the square root of x minus 4. Do you remember how we worked with the radicals before? So we're going to go back to the radicals. Let me remind you how we do with radicals. Number one, we isolate the radical and then square both sides and then solve for the problem. So I'm going to do that and we'll see how it goes. Just remind you that we worked on that before. So I'm going to plug a square root of x minus 4 instead of y here. So I'm going to write the equation again, x minus 5 times, instead of y, I'm going to plug this, and this is equal 10. And now I'm going to plug the square root of x minus 4. So now I have my equation, x minus 5 root x minus 4 equals 10. Okay, I need to isolate the radical here. So I need to get rid of x. So how can I do that? You subtract the x from both sides. So when I subtract x, I'll have 5 here, negative 5 times x minus 4, and here I have 10, and we subtract x, so I get negative x. Okay? I don't like the negative, so I need to get rid of the negative. Multiply by negative 1 or divide by negative 1. Same. I'm going to multiply by negative 1. Okay? So when I multiply by negative 1, I get with the left side 5 square root of x minus 4. Here I get negative 10 plus x, so x minus 10. You see what I did? So the 10 becomes negative, and x becomes positive, but I put it in order, like x comes first. Alright, now it's time to square both sides. Some of you like to divide by 5 and isolate the whole radical. However, we are fine if we square both sides. So it's not a big deal actually, but I don't like if you divide by 5. The reason of that is when you divide by 5, you're going to work with fractions, so I wouldn't do that. Okay, square both sides, and then we're going to work with that. Don't forget about distributing the exponent or the power. So now that would be 5 squared times the square root of x minus 4 squared. Let's write it down first. 5 squared times the square root of x minus 4 squared, which is equal x minus 10 squared. Okay? So 5 squared is 25 times the square root of something squared is the radicand here. So that means I have only x minus 4. And this is equal, I'm going to extract that. So I have x squared minus 2 times x times 10 is 20x, and 10 squared is 100. Okay, so far? Now we distribute the 25. So I'm going to get 25x minus 25 times the negative 4 is negative 100 equals x squared minus 20x plus 100. Okay, let's do that here. So I'm going to get everything to one side. So I'm going to subtract x squared. There is no x squared. Watch, I'm making this the left side. Okay, so this is x squared. Here is negative 20, and I'm going to subtract 25. I'm going to subtract 25, and here is 25. So I have x. So I have, this is down, a negative 20 and negative 25 is negative 45x. And then I will add 100. Add 100. So this is done. And 100 is 200. And that's equal to 0, which is that side. Alright, now I need to factor that. That might be unclear a little, but I'm going to help you with that. So 200 either 1 times 200. So I need to find the product of two numbers that their sum is negative 45. So let's think about 45 right now. You don't have to worry about the negative. So I have 1 times 200 is 201. No, that doesn't work. 2 times 100, 102. Doesn't work. 3, 200 is not divisible by 3. 4, 4 and 50, 54. No, doesn't work. How about 5? 5 and 40. Well, yes, 5 and 40 is 45. Therefore, I have x, I have negative 5 and negative 40. Okay, now, negative 5x and negative 40x is negative 45, and negative 5 times the negative 40 is positive 200. Alright, so now I have two values of x. I have x equal 5 and x equal 40. Now, I have two directions of solutions. I check when x is 5 and when x is 40. So I'm going to check in the first equation here. Okay, when x is 5, I have 5 minus 5y equals 10. We subtract 5 from both sides, so I have negative 5y equal 5. So divide by negative 5, so I have y equals negative 1. So I have my solution here. X is 5 and negative 1. Maybe 5. Okay? Alright, let's check the other one. X equal 40. So I have here 40 minus 5y equals 10. Okay, subtract 40 from both sides. So I have negative 5y. 10 minus 40 is negative 30. Divided by negative 5, so I have y. And divided by negative 5, I will get 6. So now I have the solution. It's 40 and 6. Okay? So now I have two solutions. Am I done? No. I need to check these two solutions, especially when I have something like square root. Okay, let me remind you of something. Do you remember how we graph the square root? So the square root, and especially this is shifted by 4. So that looks like the square root. Do you remember that? And this is a line. This is a line. This is a positive with a positive slope, because if you move the x to the other side, let's write it down here. So negative 5y equals negative x plus 10. You see what I did? I just moved x to the other side. And then divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, divided by negative 5, so you get y equals, I have here 1/5 x minus 2. So now, if you look at this, this is a positive slope. So that must be something like that. So it's positive slope. So it could be like that. So if you look at this one, if this slope is very big or so, that might be like that. Okay? Or it could be like this. But this cannot be negative, because I got the positive slope here. Okay? So it's either these two. So in one of them, I have no solution here. In the other one, I have one solution. But in both ways, I cannot have two solutions. So let's check that. But you have, in advance, you have an idea that one of these solutions cannot be wrong, or both of them. So let's check that. So I'm going to check the first one in the second equation, because we came from the first one. Let's do that. All right. So I'm going to check that here. I have y. I'm going to check x minus 4, square root of x minus 4 here, and I should get y. So when x, let's say, when x, the square root of x minus 4 is, what's the value of x here? 5. So that is the square root of 5 minus 1. And how much is that? The square root of, okay, I'm sorry, this is 4. The square root of 1. And how much the square root of 1? It's 1. Square root of 1 is 1. And how much is y here? Negative 1. So that means that is not equal to negative 1. Therefore, that is not a solution. Let me get another color here. That is not a solution. So what about the other one? Let's try the other one. I have x is 40. So square root of 40 minus 4 equals square root of 36. And what is that? What's the square root of 36? It is 6. So when x is 40, y is 6. Oh yeah, that is correct. So therefore, I have 1 point, I have 1 solution. So in the beginning, you expected to have either 1 solution or no solution. And based on that, you have an idea from the beginning how it works. I hope that this is helpful for you, that you predict your solution so you can avoid doing a mistake. All right, let's get a third example. The same idea, but I'm going to give you different equations. Okay. So, and this is the third example. We use the substitution here, but I'm going to change that to addition. All right. So now we're going to use addition method, and I'm going to have here x squared plus y squared equals 3, and x squared minus y squared is 1. All right. So let's focus on that. That might be a little different for you, but you know what that is. What's x squared plus y squared equals 3? Oh, that's a circle. So here's the circle. This one we call it hyperbola, and hyperbola is graphed like that. Okay? So it could intersect the circle in how many points? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or could intersect, cannot intersect the circle like that. So in this case, we can have 4 solutions or less. So let's try that. Okay? Let's see. So do you see how easy it is if you plug x squared plus y squared? Don't use substitution. It's very hard to use substitution, because if you solve for x, you'll take the square root of both sides and you're going to have plus or minus, so it's going to be hard. But the easiest thing, if you add this together, what's going to happen? If you add, you're going to get rid of of y squared. So you're going to have here 2x squared, and y is cancelled out, and 3 plus 1 is 4. Clear so far? So now, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, so I have x squared is 2. If x squared is 2, take the square root of both sides, so I have x is plus or minus square root of 2. Okay? Now, I have how many values of x? 2 values of x. So I have to evaluate y based on each value of x. So now, I'm going to say, when x equal the positive square root of 2, let's plug that in the first equation here. Okay? So therefore, square root is 2 squared plus y squared equals 3. So I plugged x equals square root of 2, and this is squared. Square root of 2 squared is 2 plus y squared equals 3. Now subtract 2 from both sides. So I have y squared is 3 minus 2 is 1. So if y squared is 1, how many values do I have for y? 2 plus or minus 1. So I have y equals plus or minus 1. So how many solutions do I have here? I have x is square root of 2, so I have root 2, and I have negative 1, and root 2, and positive 1. Okay? So this is when x is square root of 2. I still have x is negative square root of 2. So what if x equals negative square root of 2? Again, I'm going to substitute x here. So I have negative square root of 2 squared plus y squared equals how much? 3. But similarly, negative square root of 2 is the same as square root of 2. Both of them, when you square it, you get 2. Because negative times negative is positive, and square root of 2 squared is 2. So I get 2 plus y squared equals 3. So again, similar to that one. So I have y squared is 1, right? And y equals plus or minus 1. Alright, so now I have x is negative root of 2 and y is negative 1, and x is negative root 2 and y is 1. Therefore, how many solutions do I have? 4. Look at this graph. Does that make sense? Yes. So now you can see how it works. So my solution, see in set notation here, I have, let's start with a negative first, negative root 2 and negative 1, a negative root 2 and 1, a root 2 and negative 1, a root 2 and 1. So here is my solution of 4 points. Again, look at this shape here, this graph. You see these 4 points. One is positive, one for x is positive, and one is negative, and this is for negative 1 and negative 1 here. And for 1 here, that's the square root of, negative square root of 2, and here is root 2. Okay, I am done with this, and we're done with chapter 5. So next time, we're going to go with chapter 6, matrices. I hope you understand. I hope that this is clear for you. And next, we're going to see how to solve system of equations by matrices. Thank you, and see you.